You know that feeling when you get home from a party, even one with your best friends, and you're just completely wiped out? Or that nagging voice in your head that says you're a fraud and any minute now you're going to be found out? Well, today we're going to dig into exactly why that happens. And we're going to do it through the story of a man who built this picture-perfect life that was actually built on a foundation of lies. This is the story of the glass architect.
Okay, this quote right here, this is really the heart of our whole story today. It's about a man named Elias Thorne, but honestly, it captures a paradox that I think a lot of us feel deep down. How is it possible to have everything you're supposed to want and still feel completely empty inside? Like you have nothing at all?
All right, so let's really dive into this guy's life. Who exactly was Elias Thorne? And how on earth did he manage to build a life that looked so perfect from the outside, but felt so hollow on the inside?
Elias, you see, was an absolute master of masks. Seriously, at work, he was the cold, ruthless visionary. No emotion, just results. But then with his friends, totally different guy. He was the easygoing, generous one, always picking up the tab. And with his family? Oh, he was the golden child, the perfect son who could do no wrong. He was a master social chameleon, changing his entire personality to fit whoever he was with. It was flawless.
And this is where it gets really fascinating and a little bit chilling. For Elias, his morning routine wasn't about putting on a suit. It was about assembling himself. I mean, he would literally stand in front of the mirror and practice his smile. He'd fine-tune his expressions, dialing up the charm, dialing down the anxiety, bearing anything that felt real. The actual Elias, he was locked away long before his hand ever touched the doorknob.
So, what was going on with Elias, it wasn't just some weird personal quirk. No, it's actually a really well-known psychological concept. So let's kind of peel back the layers here and look at the actual science behind what was happening inside his head.
Okay, so there was this brilliant psychiatrist, Carl Jung, and he had a name for this social mask, the persona. He actually named it after the masks that actors used to wear in ancient Greek plays. And here's the key thing to get. We all have a persona. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a super important tool. It's what gets you through a job interview or a slightly awkward first date. You know, it helps us navigate the world.
And this is the absolute crucial point. The danger kicks in when we forget that we're even wearing the mask. When we start to believe the mask is us. That's when the persona morphs into what's called a false self. And when that happens, the real you, your authentic self, starts to suffocate. It's like you're trading who you really are just to get a little bit of approval.
There's this amazing line in the story that just paints the perfect picture. Think about it like this. You've basically painted a layer of silver over your soul. Just like a mirror, right? A mirror is just glass, but it's that silver backing that stops you from seeing through it. Instead, it just reflects an image back. And that's exactly what the false self does. It stops people from seeing the real you, and instead it just reflects their own expectations right back at them.
And for Elias, man, that layer of silver was perfectly polished for decades. But you know what they say? Eventually, even the most perfect mirror has to crack.
The crack came at this big, fancy gala, celebrating his success. His boss, Marcus, comes over, throws an arm around his shoulder and boasts to a bunch of investors, "Elias here, he's a machine, never sweats, never doubts." And right there, in that exact moment, being praised for the very performance that was killing him, something inside Elias just snapped. He completely froze, couldn't get a word out. The whole room just started to spin.
Now, what he was feeling? That's a real thing. It's called depersonalization. Think of it like an emergency shutdown for your brain. The gap between his real self, who is exhausted and terrified, and his mask, the perfect machine, just got too big. The tension was too much, so his brain basically pulled the plug to protect itself. It literally felt like he was floating outside of his own body, just watching some stranger go through the motions.
So he flees the party, totally panicked, and stumbles into this old antique shop run by this incredibly wise character named Julian. And Julian's diagnosis is just so simple and so profound. He looks at Elias and says, "You're not losing your mind. You're not crazy. Your battery is just dead." Because think about it, maintaining that mask 24/7, constantly performing, it takes a massive amount of energy. Elias's battery was just completely drained.
In that moment, that simple diagnosis, it sets up the ultimate crossroads for him. Elias is now facing a choice. Does he go back to the perfect, soul-crushing mask, or does he risk absolutely everything to try and find the person underneath it?
This is where Julian introduces another one of Jung's big ideas, the shadow self. Now, this is super important. The shadow isn't just your dark side or the evil stuff, not at all. It's all the parts of you that you've learned to hide because you thought they were unacceptable. For Elias, his shadow was his creativity, his passion, his love for things that were messy and imperfect, everything his cold, logical life was built to suppress.
And this all comes to a head during this massive, career-defining pitch. The design his mask would create, it's exactly what you'd expect. Cold, perfect, a monument to power made of steel and glass. But in secret, Elias starts sketching another design, one from his true self. It's warm, it's made of brick and wood, it's welcoming, and it's beautifully imperfect. Now he has to walk into that boardroom and decide which one to show them.
So the moment of truth arrives. And Elias, he chooses authenticity. He presents the messy human design. And you know what? The clients, they're actually kind of into it. But his boss, Marcus, he is livid. And that's when he just explodes, screaming this line right at him. "I don't pay you to be real, I pay you to be perfect." And just like that, he fires him on the spot. And here's the beautiful, crazy paradox of it all. In a single moment, Elias lost everything he'd worked for. His job, his status, probably a lot of his fake friends. The whole mask just shattered into a million pieces. But as he walked out of that office for the very last time, he said he'd never felt so light. That crushing, exhausting weight of the performance was just gone.
Okay, so Elias's story is pretty dramatic. I get it. But the feelings at the core of it are so incredibly common. So let's bring this back to you. How can you tell if maybe you're relying a little too much on your own mask? Let's go through a few really clear warning signs.
All right, first up, the social hangover. If you constantly feel drained after social events, it's a sign you're performing instead of connecting. Number 2, imposter syndrome. That constant fear that you'll be found out, that happens when there's a huge gap between who you are on the outside and who you are on the inside. Third, having no boundaries. If you're always people-pleasing, always saying yes, you're basically sacrificing your true self for a quiet life. And last, number 4, just feeling numb. If you push down all the bad feelings for long enough, you accidentally numb all the good ones too.
So if any of that is ringing a bell for you, please don't panic. The good news is you don't have to quit your job and blow up your whole life like Elias did. There are actually small, totally manageable steps you can take to start getting back to the real you.
Okay, 3 simple steps. First, just start small, like super small. Today, express one genuine low-stakes opinion. You know what? I'd actually rather have pizza. That's it. Notice how the world doesn't implode. Second, and this one's tougher, embrace disappointing people. The hard truth is some people only love your mask. When you start being real, they might not like it. You have to be okay with letting them go. And third, reconnect with your inner child. Seriously, what did you love to do as a kid before the world told you who you were supposed to be? Go do that thing again.
And that brings us to what might be the single most important takeaway from this whole thing. This is the core truth right here. You cannot be truly loved for who you are until you are willing to be disliked for who you are. Real connection is just impossible when you're hiding. It takes courage, for sure, but that courage to be disliked by the wrong people is what opens the door to being truly found and loved by the right ones.
So, I'll leave you with this one question. The next time you look in the mirror, really try to look past the smile you practice, past all the expectations. What do you see? What messy, imperfect, and beautiful truth is waiting for you right there, just underneath that layer of silver?
Please like and subscribe.